Well, today we come back to video games, and this is one I've had on my list for a very, very long time. It's Assassin's Creed 3. It's fucking awful. Now, some of you in the audience may not know much about Assassin's Creed 3, so I'm gonna get right to explaining that. You play as an assassin with a creed, and you kill people. I mean, that's about all it is. I don't know what else you want from me. But really, you're some guy in a giant VR game that tracks back people's lineage and lets you live the memories of your ancestors. The Assassins have a bitchy rivalry with another secret organization called the Templars. The Templars believe in controlling and manipulating the world to suit their best interests. They want to create a perfect world, but their idea of a perfect world is kind of fairly incredibly fascist. While the Assassins believe in freedom and stuff like that. Both organizations believe in killing people. Now, the game itself has a lot of parkour action, stealthy-ish gameplay, and combat that gets better or worse depending on which game you play, but I'm gonna get into that a little later. Now, for context on my perspective of the Assassin's Creed games, I'd played every major release game on the consoles. So I'd played every game before 3. That was 1, which was alright, it set the tone, but it was kind of boring, dull, repetitive. Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood are amazing. I love those games. They're some of my favorite games. And Assassin's Creed Revelations was a good old-fashioned, It was alright. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. So it was a series that I liked a lot, but it had a lot of flaws for me. Nevertheless, I was incredibly excited for Assassin's Creed 3. We get to go to America and play as a half-Native American hero named Connor, which is my name. I mean, I spell it C-O-N-N-E-R instead of C-O-N-N-O-R because O-R is Con-or, not Con-er. I mean, you know, it's just a little thing. It's, you know, very small detail. I mean, it's not like I get my name constantly misspelled because people keep thinking that O-R makes more sense for some reason instead of E-R, you know. Phonetically, you know, O-R is Con-or, not Con-er, you know, so Connor, if you want to spell Connor, it's C-O-N-N-E-R, right? That's the one that makes sense. Why would you spell it C-O-N-N-O-R? I mean, it's not like I'm completely bitter about the way people choose to spell the name. I mean, it's all about perspective, you know? And like everything on my channel, my perspective is correct and everyone else is wrong. Okay, we're going to move on back to the game. So what went wrong? Well, that seems to be a long story. It's a good thing that's what this video is about. Let's just start this out with the way the whole game kicked off. Instead of opening the game with Connor like I was expecting, we get his father, Haytham Kenway. Haytham is, plot twist, a Templar instead of an assassin. I still remember the feeling I got when I first started controlling him. Oh god, this feels clunky and weird. This is a lot less smooth than playing Ezio. That's a great way to start your new game, feeling like it's clunky and harder to control than previous games. Then we play as him for 3 of the 12 sequences in the game before we finally get the real main character in Connor. This part acts as a prologue about Haytham getting a key and then traveling to America to find out what it goes to. Along the way, he gathers a team, kills a lot of people, then gets a woman pregnant and bails. This section of the game is so fucking boring, and it's the beginning of the game. I get what they were going for. Let's start the game off with a huge mindfuck. They'll be like, oh my god, I was getting connected to this character. Plot twist, he's a Templar. What? They'll never see it coming, man. The problem is, to achieve that, you had to hide away a lot of the character's motivation and real personality. Because really, you're only seeing a really guarded small chunk of his life, and you could feel that when you're playing the game. You're not getting who he's really like or what he's like when he's just chilling out, because he's never doing that. They always have this facade over him so you don't see his Templarishness under him. Now, some people may bring up, but you know he's motivated by the fact that he wants to find the thing for the key. You know, like, okay, yeah, but I don't know why he wants to do that. I don't understand his real reasoning behind anything. I just know the bare bones, find a thing for the thing because we have a thing. I'll give Assassin's Creed this. They do have a lot of things. It's very uninteresting, though. Also, if you just don't care about story, the gameplay is fucking dull. Haytham is a bitch to control. He's so clunky and awkward compared to the assassins of previous games. Which, story-wise, makes sense, but now you're letting the story ruin the most important, crucial parts of a game. The start of it, where you try to understand and work with the controls, and even more importantly, the gameplay. This makes the intro feel like a slog to get through, and you know I'd love to say it gets better from here, but It does not. Okay, well, it gets slightly better. His son and our main character Connor, who also has a Native American name that I'm not even gonna try saying, is easier to control and feels better to play as. But it's not that much of an improvement. One of the highly touted features of Assassin's Creed 3 was climbing on trees as Connor, and at first I was like, oh, okay, cool, that could be really fun. Then I found out when playing it that it's only really a few trees and only at really specific points. So instead of previous games where it feels like I'm choosing my own path and flying over rooftops, I am stuck in these fucking awful trees that have a linear path set in them. It feels so uncreative as a player. There's no sense of free running actually being free. I'm just following a predetermined path, which is incredibly lame. When climbing buildings, you don't see paths, you see branching ways of which you can climb and move from where you're going to where you need to go. You can choose your own path, but the trees have a very specific way they need to be climbed, and they end up feeling more like an obstacle course that was shoehorned in just to say they have it in their E3 demo, instead of it being a natural part of the game. But let's get to talking about our main character. Connor is introduced as a child, then his village gets attacked by his father's henchmen. Then we see him trying to discover why his village was attacked, which leads him on a spirit quest, seeing the logo of the assassins and thinking, fuck, I should follow that thing. So he's sent off to an elderly African-American man who used to be an assassin, where he goes to learn how to be an assassin, protect his village, and kill his dad and his henchmen. Connor, as a character, is... well... he's there. He went to the Altair school of not having a personality, which means that Ubisoft learned absolutely nothing from how people loved Ezio. Ezio had humor, he was a womanizer, he was cocky, he was flawed. He was interesting, and following his adventures was more fun because of that. But Connor is just boring. His goals are to save his village and kill his father and his henchmen. Other than that, I don't really know anything about Connor. He's determined, but saying a protagonist is determined is like saying they're the protagonist. It doesn't really mean anything. Oh, and also you're actually playing Desmond, who's in a machine to view all of Connor's memories. Desmond's story is boring and unnecessary. This concludes my discussion on Desmond. But I will say that that's not really Assassin's Creed 3's fault. I never found Desmond's story to be that interesting at all. I think the games would be better if they just cut that angle out of the games, because they really don't need that. Just make the game focused on the assassins and the time period. Focus on one protagonist so we can just keep our eye on them and not keep checking back with this other side of the plot that really doesn't fucking matter at all. There isn't really anything crucial that makes the game good lost in that whole exchange. Because do you know what makes these games feel good? Feeling like a fucking assassin. Which brings us to the centerpiece of all of this. Assassin's Creed 3 has awful combat, and I never feel like an assassin. Kind of an important aspect of an Assassin's Creed game, if you ask me. Also, this is the first Assassin's Creed game to have guns in it, besides when Ezio, the main character for the previous game, had a little rocket on his arm that he would just kind of shoot at people, but that's like a one-shot kind of thing. It really wasn't a huge part of the fighting or combat, or... you know, you can tell these 2 points are very directly related. Now, I think a lot of Assassin's Creed fans knew that this day would come, when they would finally have to incorporate guns, because the timeline kept getting closer and closer to the present, so they wouldn't be able to avoid it, and wow, did that just feel fucking awful. To fire a gun, you auto-aim and fire. Then you hold Y, if you're playing Xbox, which I was, for your character to slowly reload the weapon. So, because of its long reload time, it's hardly practical for big brawls. And the fact that it has to auto-lock onto a target before you can even fucking shoot the thing is such a pain in the ass. It removes any satisfaction. I didn't aim the gun, the game aimed it for me and then just let me pull the trigger. Not like aiming would even really work in this game because looking around feels so janky at times. But auto-lock on just takes out all the fun of it. Basically what I'm saying is it's a lose-lose situation. They would most likely need to change a lot for the aiming to really work in this game. Most of these issues were also present in other games that had the crossbow in it, but at least the crossbow fired quicker, and it wasn't a heavily pushed aspect of the game. Like you weren't being attacked and having crossbows thrown at you from all over the place. Also, as an assassin, using a muzzle-fire gun just doesn't have nearly as much satisfaction to it as the hidden blade or the sword. It's too brazen and changes the feel of the game too much for me. There was nothing silent or cool or assassin-y about it. This game was so fucking awful to play, I could not even finish it, not even for this video. It was not worth wasting my time to play all the way through this because the story wasn't interesting. Also, story and ending tend not to matter when the gameplay is so horrendous. You know what steams me the most is when I was doing background information for this game, I looked up some of these scores from back in the day when the game came out, and it was a lot of 8s and 9s. 8s and 9s. So people gave this game an A or a B. I mean, so if there was ever a reason to call game reviews BS, there it is right there. Also, a quick thing I want to add in here. While I was capturing footage for this game, there was a segment where I actually had to look up a guide for this. there's an area where you're collecting feathers, right? And I had to go up to this eagle's nest to get an eagle feather, and for some reason I couldn't find the checkpoint. It just wasn't spawning, so I looked it up to see if I'd made a mistake or if I hadn't done anything, and it turns out it just didn't spawn. I had to restart the game 6 to 7 times just for this one checkpoint to actually show up. Certainly in the end did not really help the game out when I was talking about it here. Now, I've heard Assassin's Creed 4 was much better and that it improves so much about the series, but no, I can't go back to Assassin's Creed anymore. The game series burned me, and I don't go back to series that burn me. Assassin's Creed 3 killed any remaining interest that I have in Assassin's Creed games at all. In my opinion, once a game series burns you, you drop that series altogether. I don't have any remorse for dropping it. I don't want to go back to it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care about Assassin's Creed anymore. Because to me, if you keep going back to a game series just because it has your favorite name on it or because you had fun with other previous games, doesn't mean that the next game is going to be good, or supporting a game series is good for you. Sonic! Oh god, what was that? Oh man. Remember, you vote for media with your wallet. Your cash tells game companies what you want and what people like and enjoy. So if you keep buying stuff that you don't like just to support a franchise that you enjoy, what are you really accomplishing? You're enabling a game company to just keep making lackluster games. Ubisoft no longer deserves my money or support for their Assassin's Creed games because I found Assassin's Creed 3 to be unbearable and unacceptable from them. Of course, the opposite of this is when you have media that you really do love, you should always support that because if you help support it, more good media will be made, which ties right back into the $10 Revolution, which is, if you could visit them at $10revolution.org, started by the magnificent Kara of the Stuck Together podcast. Hashtag $10 Revolution, and just used a hashtag. The $10 Revolution is an idea where you take $10 out of your monthly budget and put that money towards creators that you really enjoy, and you can split that money up however you want to between however many creators that you want, but just start supporting people. Just start with something small and work your way up, because if you really love and support creators, you should definitely give money to them to show your support so they can put more time, more effort, and more of their resources into making better content. That's just a small spiel that I'm going to give as a side of this, because this all kind of ties back into what I talked about with Assassin's Creed, because people keep giving the series money, so they keep making lackluster games, so that just, it's a never-ending cycle of bad games, lots of money, people just trusting the logo and giving more money for these bad games. It's just got to stop, guys. It just has to stop. Give your money to people that deserve it. There are plenty of people that deserve it. Look up the $10revolution.org, and that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video, and thank you very much for watching this video. Yeah. Don't play Assassin's Creed 3. Goodbye.
We've been doing this for so long, and yet it's come to this. We feel you've been treating us wrong, yet you sit there and insist.